Kim, what is our third main topic today?
All right, Rajan says, so yesterday marked the 20th anniversary of the best film trilogy of all time, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which debuted in theaters on December 19th, 2001. 20 years, $3 billion, and 17 Academy Awards later, it continues to be one of the most celebrated films of all time. On this special occasion, what do you think about the legacy of Lord of the Rings? Also, what do you think are the chances of an HBO Max Reunion Special? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
All right, thanks for sending that in, Rajan. And yeah, yesterday marked the 20th anniversary of the North American release of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the first film in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Growing up, there were only a couple of books that I read like growing up. I think one of the first books I read ever in my life was The Hobbit. And I was in love with The Hobbit. Love, love, love The Hobbit. I think that's what actually got me interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, was reading The Hobbit. And that's kind of what got me started in playing D&D. And then later on, I graduated reading the Lord of the Rings books and things like that. And I could not believe it when we heard that they were making live action Lord of the Rings. And I went into it. I mean, the trailers for them were spectacular, but I remember going into it with a very tempered expectation and walking out with my jaw completely on the floor. What Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings films, culminating in Lord of the Rings Return of the King, which I contend is the greatest cinematic achievement in movie history. It's still, to this day, there's never been a movie that has won more Academy Awards than Lord of the Rings Return of the King. It went 11 for 11. It was nominated for 11 awards. It swept. It completely swept and won all 11, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, on and on and on and on. Everything it was nominated for, it won. All three of the films were nominated for Best Picture. I believe only one other trilogy in history has ever done that, I believe, and that was The Godfather. The Godfather trilogy, all three were nominated for Best Picture. Lord of the Rings, all three were nominated for Best Picture. And with, of course, Return of the King winning once, Godfather winning twice, for Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. It was both a blessing and a curse because a lot of people thought, I remember, here's the problem. Lord of the Rings was so good. When it came out and people realizing this is great, people thought this is going to usher in a new sorcery, sand, sword, and sandal kind of movie era, right? The problem was the movies were so damn good, nobody wanted their projects to be compared to Lord of the Rings. And it actually killed the development of a number of films that were kind of in the same vein.
Oh, holy crap.
But that's how good these movies are. And I still remember the confusion for a lot of people when the ending of, because those of us who read the books, the ending of Fellowship of the Ring with, Sam and Frodo going, well, okay, that's Mordor over there. Let's go. Credits roll. And everybody's like, wait, what? What? This is where they're ending? And then, I don't know, I just felt like the films got better and better. Then you get to the Two Towers, the battle at Helm's Deep, the battle, and then of course you get into the final thing where it's like Peter Jackson redefined what grand epic scale action sequences could be. He did it in Helm's Deep, in Two Towers, and then when we got to Return of the King, he upped himself with the battle at Gondor. And some of the most chilling, chest thumping, cheering, crying, emotional moments I have ever had in a cinema, ever in my life, have come from the Lord of the Rings films. You can't mention to me the scene in Return of the King when Aragorn runs into the throne room of Theoden, the king of Rohan, and says, the torches have been lit. Gondor calls for aid. And Theoden, who's kind of pissed off at Gondor because they abandoned them before, and he already told Aragorn, we're not going to go and help these guys. But he comes running in and says, the torches have been lit. Gondor calls for aid. And the look on Theoden's face, a true fucking king. The lip curls up and he goes, and Rohan shall answer. That's a man. That is a man right there. That line, every time I even think about it, chills shoot through my body. He's just, Rohan shall answer. I'm like, yeah. And I don't know that I've ever seen a more emotional moment to me. I don't know that I've ever personally seen a more emotional moment in a movie that I get totally choked up at the end of Return of the King as there's the coronation of the new king. And he's going through, the king is walking through and greeting all the men, the elves, and all that kind of stuff. And then he comes to these 4 little hobbits. And the plateau of the king, around the tree of the king, is filled with everybody from Middle Earth. And he comes to these 4 little hobbits, and as everybody's been bowing to the king, the hobbits start to bow. And the king says to them, my friends, you bow to no one. And then all of Middle Earth takes a knee and bows to these 4 hobbits. And I'm sorry, but my blood starts to rush. I get goosebumps on my arms when I think about it. Seeing frickin' Orlando Bloom almost every scene with Legolas as he's zipping around doing his arrows thing. Screw Katniss Everdeen. Screw Hawkeye. Legolas.
Man, these movies sound really good. I should check them out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I mean, these movies, like, honestly, to me, the original 3 Star Wars films to me are the greatest films of all time. Like, I just count New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi as one film. That's Star Wars to me. Greatest film of all time. But I'll tell you what, right up there is Lord of the Rings. Right up there is Lord of the Rings. And that even when it's the most perfect ending to a trilogy ever. The credits start to roll, and they do the sketching, the art sketches of the characters and the place. It's like saying to the audience, let's revisit this journey we've been on together as we say goodbye. And Annie Lennox sings Into the West as the credits start to roll, which she also won an Academy Award for. On the horizon, like just that song, like, breaks me down to my base emotional elements. Whenever I hear Annie Lennox singing Into the West, I stop whatever I'm doing. I stop whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter what's happening. If I hear that's going on, I'm like, oh, I can be in the middle of a job interview. I'm like, hold on a second.
Like Step Brothers.
Before marrying Anne, I might be getting intimate with a date. I'll be like, time out. Hold up.
Shut up. Let me listen.
Shut up. Shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up. Annie Lennox is singing, you shut up. Right? It can't be overstated how important, how grand, and how utterly unbelievable the Lord of the Rings films are. They defined a generation, honestly, of film fans. They shattered the idea that the Oscars never celebrate genre films. 17 Academy Awards says otherwise. 3 nominations for Best Picture. The record-setting 11 wins, tied with 2 other motion pictures. No film in other cinematic history has won more. And of course, that all led up to a kind of a disappointment with the Hobbit films, which I still contend were good. They were just big steps down from the Lord of the Rings films. But we sit here 20 years later, and I can remember where I went, who I was with, what seat I sat in, when the first time I saw Fellowship of the Ring start. We get the backstory of the ring, and then we see Gandalf on a cart riding into the Shire. And I remember, because gotta remember, I had read these books when I was a kid and all this kind of stuff, and I remember I could not believe how much Peter Jackson had captured what the Shire was in my imagination. Oh. And I'm just sitting in my just Gandalf riding a cart into town, and I'm freaking out. You see the Hobbit holes, and you see all the residents of Hobbiton, and you see and I just remember at that moment I fell in love. And then the first time we ever saw Peter Jackson's forced perspective technique, making Gandalf look like he was 6 feet taller than the Hobbits, right? And I'm like going, how is he doing this? Like, and all that kind of stuff. We could go on all day about the greatness of these films, about the importance of these films, about the impact of these films. Mm-hmm. You cannot believe that they are 20 years old. And it's just crazy. And God, I want to go back to Middle Earth again. It's part of the reason why I'm so excited to see what Amazon is going to do with this Lord of the Rings series. But yeah, 20 years old. Kim, when you think about Lord of the Rings, What impact does it have on you?
Oh my gosh, what was I, 16 or 17 when that came out? And I remember it because I didn't read the books, but I remember there's something that I love about film is being totally captured by it and sitting in my seat and just being in this world and having this world introduced to me, and the love story between Argon and what was Liv Tyler's character. Oh God.
Oh, I can't even remember off the top of my head now.
Arwen.
Arwen.
Oh gosh, I remember that.
Time out. How the fuck do you know that? Why is it every once in a while Ray pulls out this information? I have no idea. How did you know that?
I don't know, because I collect action figures.
That's true. He collects all the figures, so he knows all this stuff. Okay, sorry.
I know that.
No, but I did watch the movies. I did watch the movies. Come on.
You did. Okay.
Man, you don't think I watched these? I did. I did. I have a story to tell too. After Kim, go ahead and finish.
All right.
Oh
go
no.
ahead, Kim.
No, but it just redefined for me what epic is. Because for me, my first introduction into epic was Jurassic Park. But The Lord of the Rings, I was like, whoa, this is another level. And something that I love doing is watching behind the scenes. I like watching how things are made. And Lord of the Rings I've watched so much footage of the behind the scenes and the VFX and the how to and how do we do this. And I'm just enamored with how they created this world, not just the world itself, like, wow, the elves and everything, but how they did this and how they really revolutionized VFX. Again, like The Matrix, so many films after it, this is the big brother that you look up to and say, how is it done? How do we do this right? How is it done? I love this world. I can't believe it's been 20 freaking years.
And by the way, I should mention this too. Like,
and Elijah Wood looks the same.
Elijah Wood looks
by the
totally
way.
the same.
Always
today.
look
Completely the same.
But all the stuff you're saying, I remember my mom's a big movie fan, actually. And I remember my mom got the DVDs for The Lord of the Rings, for all of them, right? And I think for a good 2 years, when she would go to bed at night, she would pop on the special features.
Yep.
Just the special features.
Hours and hours
I
of
love
these
special features, man. Those are like my favorite.
Honestly, like the Lord of the Rings special features, and as much as I don't like the Star Wars prequels, my goodness, the behind the scenes special features of the Star Wars prequels are amazing.
Oh wow!
And
I didn't even
seriously,
know they had those.
It's like a film class. It's like a film class. They're the best. And like the Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars special feature stuff were unbelievable. Ray,
it was kind of overkill, to be honest, because my favorite part about buying a Blu-ray or a DVD is the special features. And when I turned the first one on, and they went like 15 minutes just talking about how they're painting the skulls that roll down the hill, I'm like, oh my god, this is too much special features. There's like 4 hours or whatever.
No, Antonio, too sexy.
But I remember the Two Towers. I remember where I watched it because it was the first time I visited the Philippines, and me and Ann, and the only time me and Ann were on the plane, and I was like, we're gonna watch Two Towers there. We're gonna watch Two Towers there. That excitement went all the way to the Philippines. I don't want not the most comfortable chairs. They were like really hard, but we watched
your 16-hour flight to the Philippines.
No. In the theater.
Oh, in the theater.
The theater. It was like it felt like the folding chairs with padding on it. But we were all scrunched up in there. We watched it. We had a good time. I mean, The Lord of the Rings. There's nothing that can compare to that whole trilogy. I mean, how I felt when the hobbits were always by themselves, like in the woods, and they're being chased after. That intense, like anxiety I felt. Just because those, even though they were, let's say, the jobbers, those monster guys that were after them, they looked like monsters.
The orcs or the Uruk.
They terrified me. And they came in packs.
Yeah.
And every time the hobbits were by themselves, I was like feeling this anxiousness, like they're gonna die. You know what I mean? Even when the knights and the soldiers were with them, I still felt helpless because the odds were so stacked against them. And I remember Return of the King, when the final battle was coming in and those tree guys came.
Oh, the Ents showed up.
I was like, I don't know why the trees made me feel relaxed. Like they were like the greatest thing ever. So I don't know.
Nature's on your side.
Yeah, there's nothing like Lord of the Rings.
And it reminded us what heroes are.
Yeah.
It was one of those films where you look at the king and you're like, that's a leader, man.
That's a king.
That is a king. That is a king. But with the Frodos.
With the Frodo.
With the Frodo.
With the hobbits.
With the hobbits, it really, I think, showed especially kids that there's a hero inside of you, and you don't have to be this big, tall, powerful king. You can be a hero in your own journey, and
Yeah.
that's like the most that I got out of it. And that, it's funny you say that was the first series you read, because I think
Yeah.
I told you one of my nephews, he can read like 1,000 pages in one weekend.
Ugh.
The Hobbit
Oh, no
was the
way.
first novel series I got him, and he knocked it out in like 5 days.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I bought the first book of Fellowship of the Ring because I was like, I'm gonna get into this. I'm gonna read it. The first couple of pages, when I had to reread just to understand stuff, I just put it away. I said, "This is way past my IQ right here."
Anyway, 20 years. We could sit here all day. You know, it's the funny thing. Like the Star Wars to me is the main thing, but
Yeah.
I don't have it in my head, even though Star Wars is my number one. I don't have it in my head that every year I must sit down and do a rewatch of the trilogy like I do with Lord of the Rings. Like it's, and for so many film fans, that is a standard thing. That it's almost like your card carrying thing that you are a film fan. Like every year I got to do a rewatch of Lord of the Rings.
So you actually think, is it because of the time when you watch the Star Wars films, like everything about it, or do you actually think they're better quality movies?
Well,
than
no.
the-
It's, you know, the reality is I probably watch all the Star Wars films several times every year, but it's not like I think that every year I must plan a date when I'm setting aside just to watch the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
but I'll probably watch every
they're too
Star
long
Wars
for
movie
me now.
several times over during the year, right? But anyway, guys, the films have turned 20 years old. They debuted 20 years ago yesterday. What do you think about when you think of Lord of the Rings? Maybe you're one of these people that are just like, you know what, I watch them and I don't know what the big deal is. Maybe to you they're the greatest things ever made. Whatever you guys are feeling about it, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.